Well, all right, Andrea, let's talk about some of the features and more importantly, let's talk about what you thought of that instilled these changes in your saddle for a newer generation of how reiners and people show horses today.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I love my first Bob. Bob built it for me in 2003, and he built it exactly to the specs that I wanted. I loved it. But through the years of using it, between myself, my assistants, my non-pros, my wife, my son, I always got a lot of feedback and tried to always improve it. So when I came to you with this new model, there was a few little things that I really wanted to improve. And I would say that the most important thing was the seat and where am I sitting on that seat. The ideal position that we want, it's always kind of right center in the middle of the horse, not too far forward on the saddle, not too far back. So in order to do that, I asked you guys, what can we improve for me to feel that I'm always in that ideal position? And, I think you guys nailed it, starting from the kennel. And you can talk about that as far as what we've done, but I feel that it's a little bit rounder and I feel that I'm a little bit more contained. It's not so open. And then we move on to the front to where we raised it up just a little bit. And it's not like one of those saddles. There's a lot of the old school reiners where you just sit in that pocket and you can't move. I still want to be able to adjust myself depending on what I'm doing on the horse. But I feel that if I'm in a neutral position, I'm in that ideal position and I don't slide anywhere from there. So that's probably the best thing. The first thing that I approached you guys, and you can talk about how you guys accomplished it, basically.
So, as what you're saying there for the seat, your first generation saddle had you sitting a little bit farther back, I would say, but it also gave you the ability to ride a little bit farther forward.
Yeah.
So, with the design of the cantle that we put on the saddle from listening to you and what you were wanting and all the testing that we did, is that this seat it has a more rounded cantle on it, so therefore you're going to be able to sit down with your pelvic bone a little bit more rotated and understand what you're wanting to get. And then by making sure that we narrowed your seat up just a little bit from what it was and bringing a little bit more rise in here, it talks about what we call the ride position,
Yep.
or what you want to be where you're talking right here so that you can still get sat down for your stops, but you don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Yeah, and the main thing is that, longer-legged people seem to have a little easier time sitting in that saddle. I've got a lot of comments from maybe women that rode with me or young riders with shorter legs that the seat maybe sometimes was a little bit wide, and as the seat is wide, it tends to open up your legs, so then you don't feel your horse as much. So just something simple like narrowing it just a little bit, it gives it a very different feel to where you just feel a lot closer and sitting down into the horse. So I love that.
Well, and as we go into what you really wanted also, which was another change in the skirt and rigging design, that also is going to be the same case for the shorter legged people, but or person. But yeah, this saddle is going to have more close contact feel.
And that's the main thing that I wanted to accomplish. Really, we need the saddle to sit in that right position, but we want that bareback feel to where you feel everything off that horse. So the less bulk underneath it, the less bulk underneath my thighs. We made this leather a little bit thinner, so we're trying to accomplish, once again, getting a little bit closer to the horse. Any of those things I think are going to give you the advantage. We always talk about feel, right? So the more bulk, the less feel you're going to have. So less underneath, I think it's the best. So we want to have enough to where it protects your legs and it gives you a little bit of protection between the horse and yourself, especially in a sweaty situation. But really, we're trying to minimize all that bulk underneath you.
Well, from that great information right there, I'm going to go ahead and lift this fender up. And then I'm going to go ahead and have you kind of talk. I'll hold this up so it doesn't whack you. And that way you can kind of explain this, and then I'll go over it as well.
Yeah, I mean, basically, once again, we wanted to accomplish being close to the horse, right? So we redesigned the skirt cutout to where the rigging now it's sitting just below the skirt. That means that your latigo, as you fold it through, it's not going to be on top of the skirt holding this up, but it's going to be down. At the same time, I didn't want to, you guys have noticed, there's a lot of guys that are doing that even in other saddles, but you see that rigging and all this leather and the keeper way down here. I still want it, if you know my style, I like to have it clean and I want everything to look clean. So I think we accomplished that by covering all that rigging up, but also have it low enough to where it stays underneath. And on top of that, we put the keeper under. You know how many of you guys always do this and maybe fold it back in because it always slides out, or double, putting it in double. This way, with the top skirt holding it down, you're just folding it through once. It's going to stay in place and it's going to look super clean. So I'm really happy with that look also.
So to accomplish that, what the first thing is what he said. To accomplish that, we just adjusted our jockey pattern right here to where it covers all that up. I know this is the opposite side, but gives that to where the latigo carrier would go in there. And then as he was saying, the way that we set this rigging, we do have some saddles that we make that have a 1-inch drop. But what we did is that we set the rigging where we wanted it, and then we adjusted and did the cut up in the skirt. The other thing is that we, through this cut up, we also gave Andrea the cut up where he rides with his leg position, and we centered that in there for where his legs are and how that it will function the best to get that close contact feel. And he did say something, and we are using a thinner weighted leather on our jockeys just to be able to accommodate some of those needs right there. So, I mean, what we at Bob's have really appreciated and everything is taking these really fine details and challenging us and telling us he wants this to cover all this up and actually hold this in. And if you only have to go through here once, it's less bulk. There's a lot of people, and a lot of times when you're in those stopping pictures and we see them, you're starting to get up in here. You don't want any restriction. This is going to lay flatter. Then again, it's going to accommodate the riders that have shorter legs.
It's going to be a shorter latigo. I always tell my people, just go through it once and change it very often. You don't need to go through it 3 times, have that thickness underneath. You go through it only once, put in your keeper. It's going to let your legs slide back and forth a lot more without the fender engaging into the latigo. Another little feature, maybe that you don't notice as much, but just the rings for the breast collar. The position where we put them, it's right in between some of the guys that like to put them just on the latigo keeper and some of the guys that like them a little bit higher. I found this ideal position in the fact that you can use both a 3-piece collar, or you can even use just a single strap, and you're going to have it in that ideal position. So it's not too far up to where, once again, it lifts up the skirt. It's not too far forward to where it's going to be off the saddle, but I think it's in an ideal position to where you can use both breast collars and be happy where they're going to sit.
Awesome. We got, I guess, one more thing along with all the other stuff we did. You want to talk about what we did with the horn for you?
Yeah, I don't mind the old horn on the Fappani Reiners. It was a little bit skinnier, a little bit taller, but I did have quite a bit of complaints for some of the maybe shorter, once again, we're talking about maybe some shorter riders, some young riders, to where their arms are not as long. And then when they were steering the horse, sometimes the horn was in the way. So we shortened it up, made it just a little bit thicker and shorter. I'm loving it. Hopefully you don't have to really hold on to the horn that much to stay on your horse at this point. But if you do need to hold on, you've got something to hold on to. It's got a great look. It's got that traditional look, but there's a lot of features that make it a super modern saddle. So I'm really excited about it.
And I want to touch on real quick, just so that we kind of put everybody at ease a little bit. The majority of all the changes, or actually all the changes that were put into this saddle were for the rider. We're still using the same tree bars that have always been in your saddle.
It is the same bar. It
Right.
is the same tree. It sits the same. So all the things that you guys like about the Fappani have not changed. We just improved
For the horse, yeah.
We improved the rider experience, and we kept the saddle to where we were happy on the horse.
So we're going to be able to accommodate and have a couple different tree widths. I know for Bob's Custom Saddles, we have put a lot of information out there, but Andrea has asked for some things. Man, I like him calling us out and doing this. We at Bob's think that this is great. Like the breast collar, everything that goes into this. Sometimes riders come up with creative ideas and they don't actually function as well. Everything here that we're doing is a step in a direction, and I think it's an awesome step. But we're going to be able to accommodate people with the trees that they have. But this is your model, and the skirt patterns are your model, and the rigging placement is your model, the seat is your model, and the model is the Fappani Reiner. That is what this saddle is the Fappani Reiner. So again, we're just really, really excited to have and appreciate you riding our product.
Thank you. It's always, Bob Haley has been with me, like I said from the beginning. He's always accommodated me. I'm not the easiest sometimes to make happy, but Bob has always been able to accomplish that, and he hasn't let me down with this new product. I'm super excited about using it.
We were challenged with an idea that Andrea had, and so Bob Haley did come out and sit down, and it's really neat that how we came up with, and I'll tell a little short story about how we came up with the silver, and this particular saddle is full sterling silver, but it was an idea that Andrea had, We got Bob involved. Bob went to our toolers, our head tooler, and we created, it's just kind of a creation, and we've got these filigree cutouts. So it's really kind of nice, and it's just cool to be able to have that type of a team to be able to bring something back to an idea.
And that's what I've always loved about Bob's Custom Saddles. Every time I have an idea, they go to their workshop, and they come back with an answer. You know, it's pretty special to be able to turn into a reality something that you're really just thinking in your head. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, and good luck.
Thanks a lot.